And we're live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Wonder Wednesday of the week. I hope you're doing well, whether you're watching this video now or in the future. You're here at Floxies Community, our international community for women in UX UI and Webflow Development. So every Wednesday, we host these kind of Wonder Wednesdays events where we invite guest speakers from either the design or the Webflow world. And today's guest speaker will be Brylle Barriga. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. And we will be talking about something that we don't necessarily pay too much attention to, and that's a mistake, which is assets preparations. So when you're developing, when you're building a new project on Webflow or any other web development tool that you might be using, we gotta be careful of all the strategy that goes before the actual act of building. And so assets preparation is one of them. So without further ado, let's get into our metaverse here on Gather Town, which is where we built our office. And let's join the others. Let's join the space. So I was just having a meeting here with my ambassadors, just discussing upcoming projects. And I'm very excited to meet them all back into our table. Here we are. Look how many people. All right. Hi, everyone.
I don't know about anybody else. On my screen, I've got Rachel and Rachel side by side.
Hi, people. Hello. Great to see so many people here. That's fantastic. Oh, Stephanie, you made it. Oh, and Rachel. Oh, look at so many faces. Hi, Penny. Who else? Hi, two Rachels. We still need to find a way to differentiate the two of you. Do you have a favorite nickname?
Hey everybody.
Hey Daria.
Hey Claudia. I wanted to ask, my other friend wanted to join the community and specifically this meeting, but she registered on the website and she can't enter the meeting. It sends her to the mushrooms. Go to mushroom.
What's mushroom?
I have no idea. This is like
we have some kind of conspiracy attacking our community.
Yeah.
Feel free to just send her the gather link here.
Yeah, I did as well, and like she has an issue with that. So okay, I will check it again with her.
Yeah, let me know if it works. Hey, Brylle.
You can tell her
hi.
to follow you.
Hi, Claudia.
Great to meet you. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Is it Brylle?
Yes, you're correct.
Oh, fantastic. Well, I've always seen you around kind of the Webflow space, and I was really impressed by your journey, becoming a Webflow developer, a Webflow expert, a partner. So I think I reached out to you on Facebook after reading your kind of your story on how you managed to, transition and just become a full-time Webflow developer and sustain your whole family. And I thought it was really encouraging and inspiring. And, I like good people. That's what our community is made of. And I just wanted you to be here with us and just share a little bit about your story and potentially teach us some, Webflow tricks. I know that your talk is going to be focused on assets preparation. So before you're actually building, we're going to look at your strategy on how you do that. But if you could give us maybe a 5-10 minutes just introduction on you, just to make sure we shed a light on the beautiful person that you are and just like your journey and, the way how you got here.
Nice. Okay. Are we starting now?
Yes, sure. We can start now.
Okay. Should I? So should I present my slides? I think I actually have an about, so maybe
sure.
Start from there.
And if you have a little introduction on yourself in your slides, or
Yeah. So. Okay. Hi everyone. So I think we're on a different time zone. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So just a little introduction about me. So I'm a proud father to my 2-year-old son. So very proud. Like I think he's very cute and do some very cool stuff as a 2 years old. And then I'm a certified Webflow expert. So our agency is actually vetted by Webflow, so you can find our agency, Brilliant Solutions, in the Webflow Expert Partner page. And they're actually based in the Philippines, so all of us, the whole team, are Filipinos, and yeah. So the way I actually got here is I have a background. Actually an degree holder in information technology, so I really love like programming. It's actually my passion to do programming, but yeah, I did do like full stack development, front end, back end. Before I actually like uh, transition to just being a Webflow developer. So I did the hard stuff first, and then I figured it was very hard. It's not easy to be a developer, especially doing the web applications, the mobile stuff, things like that. So you gotta like you get to sleep. You got to have like sleepless nights, and then some really headaches and things like that. So yeah, and then one day, like I think that's in January of 2019. So I decided I have to specialize in something. True, just because I did follow. I'm actually a fan of the future, so I'm not sure if we all know Chris though, but he's like the
I've
one
heard I've
I
heard that
look.
name before.
Yeah, I think I really look up to him. So that's when I realized I have to like specialize and things like that. And then he interviewed like Flux Academy. So I'm not sure if I think you also know Ran Segal. So I also like followed him. So and then that's where I really know about Webflow. So I was also when I was transitioning, I did a different offer. I'm not sure if I have a background in accounting as well. Like I do accounting softwares like SAP, but that's where I started my freelancing. But I didn't get clients from there, so that's then I realized I had to transition from a different skill, and that's where I found Webflow. So when I found Webflow, I fell in love with it, and then I set my mind because I do a lot of things like I do anything what I can learn in the internet, like fix stuff. Like I can do like mid like photo editing or anything that anybody asks me. I'll try and learn it so that I can help them. So yeah, and then yeah, then when I knew Webflow, I decided I will be an expert in this area because I was really a jack of all trades, so I didn't have an expertise. So I always wanted to learn new things. And then when I fell in love with Webflow, so starting from like 2019 to this date, I don't do anything aside from Webflow. So
Of the
yeah,
whole
that's
list that you have here, I particularly like the bottom one, the final point, and I like to play badminton.
badminton. Yeah, it's the sport that I play. So yeah. I
Sounds
also
good.
like basketball, but I don't play. So, but
But that sounds really
badminton's
good. I'm always intrigued by developers, like full stack developers that just end up becoming, avid Webflow users instead. And like, before we
correct.
actually start with your presentation, like, what would you say facilitated that kind of switch? Did you find it easier to develop with Webflow? Was it faster? Because you could do it all with code, couldn't you?
Yeah, I could do it in code, but I think like the thing about using code is that you still also have to do like the framework, and then the thing about it is you have to type, and then you have to memorize the syntax and things like that. And then the way we do it normally is like we just go to Google, copy some code, and paste it. Because sometimes you're trying to just type everything or memorize everything. So unlike Webflow, like the tool is there, you just have to like type the keywords. You don't have to type everything. So yeah, and then actually it was not an easy transition. I still like it was still there was still a learning curve for me, especially like because I didn't like the web before. I used to do like desktop applications. It's because the web is like a bit complicated. Like you have to deal with multiple browsers, you have to deal with multiple OS, mobile devices. So, but yeah, I think the technology now is has changed. The resources has changed, so a lot of things you can do to make your job easy.
Perfect. All right. Without further ado, let's go ahead and see what you have in reserve for us.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I'm not sure. Like maybe I should ask first. Is the majority of the group like a designer or a developer? Like, what's here? Like, are there any developers here? Like,
We have a couple developers in the group, yeah, and I
okay.
think we have one here. Let me see around the table. Is Gabriella here? And Penny?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a couple here around the table. Yeah, we got
Okay,
people that
okay.
talk your language or speak your language.
Thanks. Anyway, okay. So yeah, so actually like, my ideal probably is because like it's simpler. So I'm probably like so maybe you all really know this, but ideally this is for like probably web designers who are starting out with no workflow in place. So and yeah, you can actually this is applicable to any design tool you are using. So this is very not Webflow, right? I'm not. I will gonna touch Webflow later on, but basically preparing asset is part of like the design phase or like web. This is half like a web designer's job and half a developer's job. So and yeah, so my goal for tonight is to for you to be able to develop a website 99% accurate based on the approved design. So it's my idea or a belief that if you don't prepare your assets properly, you won't be able to uh, probably develop the site accurately because like especially if there are actually clients that are very specific in terms of pixels, like they really want it this part to be here aligned here, things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's very important. And another one is you'll have a website that is optimized, the assets are optimized for SEO, and then you'll have a workflow that builds good relationship with developers. So as you know, sometimes I'm not sure if you have this belief that like sometimes web designers and web developers are not really into like they're not really friends. It's because like sometimes designers try to do complex things without considering the developers perspective. So and then when it got to development, sometimes and then like the designers when they see how it's being developed, their design how it's being converted to the actual website, sometimes they actually get frustrated. It's
Mm-hmm.
because that's not how they imagined it would turn out. So I
Yes.
think that's also the reason why Webflow was built, right? It's because the frustration of like the handing over and the conversion part. So like Webflow is really built for designers so that they can do it themselves without really learning how to code things like that. So, but like this is like one way for me because this is actually how we do things in our agency. So we have an in-house designer and then we have a lot of developers. So I try to like make them friends so that I try to make the transition
Smooth.
making this yeah smooth. I try to make the transition smooth so they don't have any conflict
Yeah,
in
that's
those areas.
something that we're also encouraging a lot in our community whenever we have, we invite guests for specific reasons. But one of the things that we always recommend or advise, especially to our kind of newer designers, is to always design with the building in mind. So, we're really trying to create that mental process where you're designing in Figma, but really you also visualizing the way that it's going to look on Webflow or that it's going to work on Webflow. So we're trying to have that clear structure or propose that structure at least.
Maybe. Yes. Okay. So yeah, so here's our four-step process to optimizing assets.
Mm-hmm.
So number one is cropping, and number two is naming. Three is exporting the assets, and number four is compressing the images. So yeah, so instead, so this is the first one that normally like newbies, because I've seen it happen a lot. Like I've trained like all my team members. I actually like mostly I trained them. Like probably they started from some of them even like a middle range. Like they were already using a Webflow, but they don't have a workflow in terms of like how they just export the assets from Figma and then build, so things like that. But and then they don't know about some of these stuff, like how do you optimize, or why do you need to crop the images. So for example, my example here is like your client gave you a logo, something like this, where there is a space at the top. So there's a padding, and then also like or you were sourcing for an image, and then you decided to use this image. So, but when we do the actual preparation of the assets, so what we normally do is crop everything without space. So this is like the crop version of the same person, and then the logo will be like this. So why am I doing this like this? It's actually preparing you to build it responsive. So it's preparing your assets to be responsive, so that you don't have an issue making things align. So for example, when you see this logo, when I use this logo, the one I have here, when I upload it to Webflow, it will look like this. So you can see it's not aligned right. It's because the asset has padding top, left, bottom, and right. So and then the thing, example, like the client came back and said, "Oh, why is that? Why is it not aligned?" So what will you do? Like, so you come here, you probably add a class. I'll just type in random class, and then you probably adjust it like I use EM actually, things like that. So and then you'll have to make it. Oh, this one looks a bit nice, but that's not a good. That's not.
To make it clear, this is not what you do.
No, this is not what I do. So I've seen a lot of people do it like this. So because they don't have like a workflow. So what I normally do is like, as you said, like if you crop the assets properly, then you use it in Webflow. Once you upload it, it's automatically like usable. You don't have to do anything. So once you upload the right image, like the one that has no space and everything is cropped properly, then you'll get a logo with this one. So with no extra space, and then it's a bit bigger. So but you can actually adjust it. So yeah, and so they have the same property, but they look different. It's because of the cropping thing. And yeah, another thing is about this guy here. So you can see I uploaded this first version where it has the spacing like this one. So it looks the same on the desktop. So if we look at them, it's basically the same, right? Like they don't have any issue. But if we actually go to mobile, there's this actually where it becomes a bit different. So as you can see in mobile, because there's a spacing in here, so I have this image full width. It's already expanding, but this guy already is always in the center with the space at the right. But if you crop the image without space, this guy will expand all the way to occupy the whole space. So uh, it's ideal if because you see if you're in mobile, you'll have to make images like a bit bigger, right? Because if you're not cropping things, it will take up some space, and then if you try to look it in your mobile, then it might appear small, and then probably your client might say, "Oh, why is this small? Can you make it bigger?" So things like that. When the client says, "Can you make it bigger?" Then what you'll do about this area here where it's not cropped, so probably you're going to say like, I think if you adjust it to maybe 120%, it's not even working. So yeah, so you cannot do anything. Probably, I think if you do it absolute, maybe it will work, right?
It's because it's in the wrapper. Yeah. But basically, just to sum up, we're
Yeah.
removing the padding so that you have, the assets that
Yeah.
you need without anything getting in the way of your design.
Yeah,
And
correct.
and if
Correct.
you wanted to make, say, this asset without the padding, if you wanted to make that smaller, you control
Yeah,
it
you can
with.
you have the ability to control everything like its size without any like putting some negative margins and adjusting like how it's 100 like more than because normally it's usually 100% width, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
seldom we use like 120, 150 just to make because if you're doing it like that then your asset is not aligned how do you say that it was not prepared properly. And then another good thing I wanted to share here is like sometimes you see this pattern here as part of the design.
Mm-hmm.
If I this pattern is actually exported. Let me show. So as we want to optimize the we want to optimize which one was that? So I think it's this one. So it's the pattern big. As you can see, is file size is 56 KB.
Mm-hmm.
But what actually I did here is I actually just make it this one this small. So instead of putting this very big large image, what I did is just make it small, like this area here. And then when I exported that one, it only becomes 14 KB. So it has a big difference in terms of like loading assets, and also a good thing about being responsive. So how I did it is so basically if you see the it's actually the same thing. And the first area here is using the so I'm actually using the repeat functionality here, horizontal and vertical. So it repeats, and like if the screen becomes larger, it just expands. And then and then the second one, this is using the third one. So the third one is the one that is using a background image. So this is the one that's using like the whole one, the one that's not cropped. And then the problem with this one is if you go responsive. So here's the thing: if you're in the responsive breakpoint, if you're using the whole background thing, you cannot really control them in such a way. So it becomes like this, unlike the one where you're using the repeat background setting, the tiling. So you have the option to reorganize the asset in a way that you don't need to re-upload another one. So because it's a whole block, then you cannot really do anything about it. But if you're using like the very small one, we're using when you're using the repeat horizontal and vertical, it's easier to adjust
Mm-hmm.
in
I'm gonna
Webflow.
ask if anyone here has any questions. So far, feel free to just drop them in the chat, because I know some people are learning, so this could be more useful for them, or any of our more expert people in the room. If you have any questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat.
Okay. Yeah. So to continue, like, so this is why I normally like don't like doing like the whole big thing, because I cannot really control it when it comes to mobile. So when we go to mobile, it's because we're using this very big image, and then we're doing it as a background. Then it's fixed. It's fixed. Unlike this one, like I just converted it from vertical, like here from vertical, I just like converted it to horizontal. and things like that. And then we're still having the pattern, and then and then it's responsive, so doesn't like ruin the design. So yeah, and then yeah, I think that's it for the cropping of the image. So basically, that's the idea. Like you can also crop. So to reduce the speed, I mean to reduce the file size, you can use the repeat file. If you have like this pattern repeating, sometimes there are designs are like that. So to reduce your asset, you can do it a trick like this, and then at the same time it gives you the flexibility in terms of responsiveness. So this is actually more on preparing how to build it. It actually makes your workflow faster, because you don't need to like upload a new asset when you go to mobile. It's because you have the capacity to rearrange or like reconfigure the settings and not uploading a new image again to suit your design in mobile. And yeah, that's it. So, do you have any questions? Does it make sense?
Makes
In this
sense. It
area.
makes sense to me. Yeah. What tool do you use to remove the background? Do you have a favorite one?
I have. Yeah, I think I just normally use the
Remove
in the
BG.
ano.
Do you have
Yeah,
the
remove VG.
Do you have the pro version of that? Because whenever I use that in
Uh,
Figma, the quality of the image is not great because I'm using the
no,
free.
no. I'm also actually relying. I'm actually relying on my designer to do all the like image things. So I'm not sure if he use
So you're
probably
here
Photoshop.
presenting all they do the dirty job.
Yeah. But this for this example, I did just do the remove VG. So I'm not sure if this is good quality enough.
Yeah, no,
I
he
think so.
always
Yeah, I
has
think sometimes
that.
it deteriorates the quality.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree. I think it's because it has a limitation, right? If you're free,
Yeah, you
it's
can
in
only
the
do
free.
one in high quality. That's why I was asking. Maybe you had another secret tool.
No, I'll have to ask my designer how is doing it, and
Oh,
then
one of our developers here, for example, says Paint 3D.
oh,
She uses
Paint
Paint
3D,
3D.
and
Interesting.
I
I need to
haven't
check
heard
that
of it.
out. Yeah.
True. I haven't heard Paint 3D. Okay. Next is so the next part is the naming convention. So this is another thing that we implement in our agency is the naming convention of the assets. So, because I think it's very like how do I say that as a developer, like we just try to just make like we move fast and then just export everything without like considering naming conventions. But actually having your assets named before you export it, it's actually it helps you. This actually helps with SEO as well. So our naming convention is like small caps, no spaces, and then use hyphen instead. So this is like the format, and you can actually try to include keywords here if you're really like. It depends on if your build really includes the SEO keywords like you already know, because sometimes during our build we don't consider SEO like the keyword research, uh, but things like that. But if you have like a section where there are multiple images, so you can use like the same keywords and then you just add a number at the last, and then so it actually looks like this one. So we have this area here, and then we name the images according to the section where it belongs. And yeah, and basically like this is how our designer hands over his design to our developers. So he's actually preparing the assets ready for export. So this is the one thing like what our developers are happy when they receive the design. It's because the assets is already prepared to be exported. So our designer doesn't export it; the developers will, but he makes sure that everything is like named properly, and then in the aspect of like correct width, So it's really like readily reusable when you import it in Webflow. So there won't be an issue like in terms of alignment and like extra spacing and things like that.
We have an interesting question from Rachel.
Sure.
So
Okay.
this is an issue that she ran into a few days ago. So she redesigned quite a few images and needed to replace them in Webflow. Do you know of a process where you can replace images in bulk and not have to re-enter all the alt tags? And I'm gonna post that onto the YouTube as well to see if anyone knows.
I don't think there is. I don't think there is, because every time, the thing about Webflow is every time you upload a new image, you have to actually add an alt tag in it. So like if you're re-uploading the image, then even if you're re-uploading the same image, Webflow will create it as a new file. So then you really have to add the alt tag again. So yeah, I don't think there is. I don't think there is.
I've asked this question in a couple places and like
And
similar answer, and it seems
yeah,
like
yeah,
maybe something Webflow will fix someday. The closest
yeah.
answer I had was shortly after I posted, someone created a Chrome extension that used AI to create alt tags. So maybe.
That's cool. That's cool. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the. I think for right now there is, because the way Webflow works is that like every time you upload an image, because they generated like a file URL. So that's another actually issue like you're using with PDF. Like sometimes people want to use the same URL, but the problem is every time like you see where you upload PDFs in Webflow, and then you can get URL, right, direct access. But then if you want to update that PDF and then you upload it to Webflow, you'll have you will be giving you'll be given a different URL again. It's because it's been treated as a new file, although it was the same. Even if it's using the same file name, it will still be treated a new file. So.
Brandon from YouTube, hi Brandon, is saying perhaps with a script you could do that. But we still don't have that magic script. So for all the developers here that would like to tackle that issue, there's a lot of need for it.
Yeah, I don't think like if I'm not sure like if you're going to code it. The thing about alt text, right, is like it should be like specific, I guess, unless you're going to do generic ones like add one alt text to every images. So yeah, there will still be conditions if you're going to script it. But anyway, I'm not sure how he will do it. Yeah, I'll let it to him. Maybe he can share it.
If I hear anything, I'll let you know, Rachel.
Okay, thanks. And then going back, so our side. Yeah, so this is like how we name our images. So the reason also why we name images in Figma, it's because sometimes when we do the export, I know some people do the 1x and like 2x to be exact, and then they go to and then you export it, and then you compress, and then you upload it in Webflow, and then once you're there in Webflow, and then sometimes client says, "Oh, this is one is not good quality. Can you re-upload it again?" So the thing so that's why we're also naming it properly, is because so that when you export it, you don't have to think of a new name like, oh, what should I name it again, or how did I name it before? So there are always issues. There are always times where you have to re-export the image because it's not giving you a good quality, and then you try to make a different or using a different file extension. Maybe you try PNG. Sometimes it works. So that's also the reason why we're implementing like naming your assets in in Figma instead of like export and then rename it first, things like that. So that way you can actually save time on those area where you have to re-export. And and also like how do I say that? Because sometimes in our agency, one developer actually works on this project, and then sometimes he is assigned to a different project. So someone like has to fill over, like even like a support stuff, like support task. I mean, and then he goes here, just very small task, and then he goes to. There was a task like you need to re-upload the image because it's not good quality. So another person comes here, and then so the asset is already there. He just needs to re-export it, and then he doesn't need to think of what he will name the asset with. So
Do you have a lot of international clients? I'm curious about
uh,
your.
yeah, normally we actually work with US and Canada. Most of our clients yeah, we don't actually work with the Philippine market.
Is
So
there a
yeah.
market there? Is there? No, I'm asking genuinely. Like, is there a lot of requests? Is that because there's not enough companies?
uh, Probably not enough because the value of website in the Philippines is a bit low. Like you cannot really charge premium. Like it's very low. They don't value websites here. People like to use Facebook pages. So if they have the Facebook page, they think they're okay. So they don't really invest much on websites. So yeah. Okay, and then what else? So after the naming, so next one is so this is also a bit of a struggle for a beginner. Like they don't know how to identify the proper file extension. So sometimes everybody use PNG and sometimes they use JPEG and then like SVG. Like even if it's a PNG, they export it as an SVG. But like you really have to understand like when do you use the correct file extension. So that's another thing I'm actually teaching our team to like for example you have this design in Figma, and then when they saw this one, they just export it. So, but our process actually is to remove all the existing uh, properties. Like you see this one, it has a drop shadow. So we normally remove it, and then if it has a border radius, we actually remove it as well before doing the export, and then we recreate the effect on Webflow, including the border radius and then the drop shadow. So that way, when you're doing the handover to your client, uh, they have the opportunity to adjust the image without change the image without needing to like have these effects created. So we try to actually think our mindset is like sometimes also client asked actually to just put a placeholder there and then we will replace it when on our end, things like that. So you have to prepare with those kinds of scenario. So if you didn't add if you're exporting this one including the drop shadow and then the border radius and then you just use it as is so that because you wanted to make your life easy, you didn't want to redo the drop shadow in Webflow, you didn't want to do the border radius in Webflow. So you're some developers actually do it. So but in our agency as best practice, everything all the assets like if you have like overlay colors, things like that. So, like if you can do it in CSS properties, we do it in Webflow instead of like using the actual assets in Figma. How it is right now.
I feel like Webflow is becoming more and more a required skill, even for designers, unless it's a big company, you know, and they're specifically hiring for either a UX designer or a UI designer. But most scenarios, when you have like startups or smaller companies, they're trying to have this kind of, they call them unicorn designers, and basically
Yeah.
they want it all, UX UI with a splash of Webflow required.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. and sometimes like we just want our process to to make it faster, so we don't like to I have to to remove this effect, but we wanted to make it our Webflow, because that's actually a good selling point of Webflow, right? Like we try to sell it in a way that it's user friendly. So that way, if you're actually dealing with design that's CMS driven, so like the user can just upload a regular image, and then when it goes to Webflow, it already has the effects. So so that the client doesn't need to like go to Figma, add those effects, and then upload it, things like that. So yeah, and then what else? Yeah, so identifying JPEG. I think this is very common. Like you use JPEG for actual images, and then PNG for images with transparent background. So like this guy here, it has a transparent background. So when you export this one, it should be in PNG. But this one, if you export this one, it should be in JPEG. And then like if you're dealing with logos, but you also have to consider the icons here in Figma. Like this should be vector. So because sometimes like I have a logo here, but my logo is in image icon. So when you export this one, you'll just have to export this as PNG, because although we want an SVG, but the client provided a PNG one, so you'll have to work with the PNG one. But if you have the SVG logo, then when you export it, uh, you use the SVG format. Same with this pattern here, because this is like drawn, they're in vector. So when you export this one, you'll have to use SVG to make it like so that you can produce high quality. The good thing about SVG is very light and then high quality as well. But they're how do I say that? Not every use case you should use SVG. So yes, and then what's the last one? So the last one is the compression tool. So I think a lot of people use tiny PNG.
Yeah.
So the good thing about tiny PNG is you can just drag. So you can just drag up to 20 images. But I'm not sure if you also use Squish that app. So
This is the first time I
is
see this. Squish.
Yeah. So the one thing about Squish is that you can actually control the compression size. The problem with tiny PNG is they already set, right. So like once you upload the image, let's see, I'll upload the same image. Also, this one has a limit, I think, of 4 MB, I guess. Max 5 MB, so you cannot upload bigger than 5 MB here. So it returned 1.2 MB, right? So if you can actually go to Squish and then see there's a size here 1.42. So you can actually adjust the size here. You make it 50, and then you can actually compare, like if you're still seeing like pixelated, or like is it good, if it's still like see the quality here is 50, and then you can see the KB here is 896. So if you're dealing with projects that are like into high quality and you want to still maintain like good quality and then very and then low file size, so this is also a good thing. But you'll have to, the problem with this one is you'll have to do it one by one. So it will be a bit tedious if you're working with multiple images.
It's probably useful for a bigger image, isn't it?
Yeah, very bigger images. And then you can also do like JPEG and PNG here. So you just like change the type so that you can adjust the file size as well. And then the last thing I'm going to share is Photoshop. I'm not sure if a lot of people use Photoshop, but Photoshop has an automation script. I mean generator. So I downloaded a sample. Where's my
I love your background.
sample? Thank you. So I have here, you can see this is what I want because some clients they just give you uh, an unfiltered or like unprocessed images, right? So you can see that this one is 400, 600. So their dimensions are very big, and then you want to crop them, like you want to make their sizes a bit smaller, right? So you can actually use Photoshop to crop them uh, and at a one go. So I see you can actually adjust. You can put a size here, like maybe I'll put 1.2 and probably 1.6, things like that. And then you can control the quality as well. I just put 6, and then I run this one.
Carmia is saying unprocessed sounds great. I always get 5 KB images for print. That's very
Is
small.
that a website? Unprocessed. So this one is processing in the background, and then it will output you an image.
What are we doing on Photoshop? I got lost.
So yeah, so from this image, from these large images, so you have like 18 MB here. If you're just going to use a raw file,
Mm-hmm.
it's 18 MB, but you're actually compressing it. So I'm going to show the dimension here. So I was able to compress the images like into 1.2
Mm-hmm.
as the minimum width, and then the file size also is smaller now. So it's 993. So this is also another trick if you want to compress images. There's a bulk compressed images to automate. I'm not sure if have you used this one before.
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think that's it. And
Time
then-
for Q&A. Well, thank you so much, Brylle. That was really nice. Once again, I was really intrigued by your just story, you know, from developer to having your own full-on Webflow agency and how you're sustaining your family with it. So that's, I think that could be inspiring to many out there. So thank you so much for being here with us and for sharing this talk. Let me see, let me have a look around the table. If anyone here has any questions, please either pop them in the chat or use the emoji at the bottom of our screen. Just put your hand up like that and we'll come round to you. And I'm gonna start off by asking you, what's if you could pick 3 challenges that you had to face while building up an agency, what would they be?
Yeah, I think the first one is hiring. To be honest, yeah. So before when I transitioned from a freelancer to an agency, I thought I was actually afraid to hire people in terms of full time employees. That was the first challenge. So because I didn't have capital, so I was doing freelancing, but my money. So this is actually a big mistake of like starting an agency, but didn't have enough capital to hire employees and to pay full time employees because there's pros and cons of having a full time employee compared to just hiring freelancers because of the dedication of the time. And then like as you know, like if you're hiring freelancers, you're not the only person they're working with, so they might work on multiple projects, and then if you try to work with them, your projects might get delayed. And unlike if you have a full-time employee, so you're their priority, they can do their side hustle after they do your work, but you're their priority to do your project first, and then do the side hustle. So that's the main problem. Like I didn't have the courage to hire full-time employees before because I didn't have the capital. So when I was starting, I actually there was a part where I was actually burned out. Like we were getting traction, we were getting clients, really like they were fully booked, and then I was keep on accepting them, and then I have to work on. The thing was that I was also building the team, and then making client works, and then fulfillment, and then client management. So I was doing a lot, and then that's where I got burned out. I was actually got sick at that time as well. So after I recovered, what I did was hire actually like 2 3 people to help me. So yeah, that was the challenge of like starting an agency. If you didn't prepare for it, especially if you don't have a system as well, like you have a process in your mind, but you didn't like document it. You don't have any recordings, things like that. So that's also a challenge of like onboarding new developers. So my strategy was to hire at first. I really wanted to give opportunity to people. That's my goal. Like I didn't want to hire experts because I think they can really do on their own. So I wanted our business to be a like stepping stone to people who don't have like these connections, like who's starting out, because not all agencies really like give chance to people, like give opportunities. So I actually try to like when I'm searching for people, I try to like see if there is a potential for them to grow. So that's how I started, and then it was rough because my first few hires were bad, so they didn't live up to the expectation. So I had to like rehire, look for another one, but yeah. So I have this misconception about, or not misconception, belief that when you hire experts, sometimes they have this ego where they think like they're a better person than you. Like they can like they're very good, like, and then you cannot really speak to them directly. Like you cannot tell them what to do because they're an expert, they know what to do. But I'm building a culture in our agency. Like everybody is like equal, and like you have to be helpful. Like if there are like newbies or like trainees, you have to assist them, things like that. So that's why I was hiring. So my learning there was I was hiring just mid, or I even actually hired people that are from WordPress, and then I told them like maybe you're interested in learning Webflow, and then if I see the potential to them, like that they can learn Webflow, then I hire them.
That's
and then
great.
and
I
then I
love I
train
love
I
the
train them.
I
Yeah,
love the values that you're sharing, with your culture, company culture. That's really important. And the idea of just like having all on the same level and just like being approachable, because for sure you need to recognize like hierarchies maybe in a company, but I do think everyone should be approachable and there shouldn't be anyone you
correct.
can't talk to. Everyone is there, and if they're an expert, they can just be more helpful to you. It shouldn't be like, oh, don't talk to me. You're just a mate. So yeah, that's really good. Well done for promoting that kind of culture. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're getting close to our ending time. So I'm just gonna have a look around the table again, just making sure nobody else has any more questions. And let me check the YouTube as well. Brandon is saying very insightful and organized. So well done, Brylle. Really great talk. We really much appreciated having you here with us today, and I hope you enjoyed it. Was it your first time at a Webflow kind of talking event?
Yeah, it's my first time sharing something like this. I
Yeah.
did a small talk in our community as well, but it was about like closing clients.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, this was first time. Like this one is yeah, it's in YouTube, right? So
Yes, it is. And because I see you like doing a lot of great stuff around, and like not only just working at your agency, but just like all the stuff you do for the community, and you're always there trying to help people. So I wanted to give you a bit more visibility because you deserve it.
thank you. It's same. It is. It is. I was actually really afraid that I might not wake up. So yeah, because it's really 1 a.m. Like, oh, I have to because I won't I don't want to disappoint and not show up. So
Oh, you did a
uh,
great job, and please go to sleep now. I don't want to keep you up. All right.
very-
Well,
thank you.
thank you again, and to all the Floxies here, I'll probably meet you next week. We're probably just gonna have a hangout because we're preparing for our Christmas party with No Code North, and so yeah, me and Penny are gonna go over to Winter Wonderland right now and do some planning on that. So yeah, we'll keep you posted, and yeah. We'll see you next week, and in the meantime I'll just keep seeing you all in our Discord. All right. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. I'm gonna end the broadcast.